I'm Dr. Julia Royston, and welcome to another edition of Live Your Best Life, where we strive to bring people, places, and I'm always ecstatic to bring people, places, resources, tools, and information to help you to live your best life. I also love to introduce you to people that you may not know, but you're going to know them sometime very shortly in the future. If you're on social media, you will know them. And so I am super excited because I'm going to jump right in. God came that we might have life and have that life to the abundant, to the full, to the overflowing. And so I am super excited to introduce a young man that I met a long time ago when he was still in college. And I was working with them with the University of Louisville Black Diamond Choir. And I said it even before we started recording. I said, Dr. Bryson McGuire was inside that young man. His job at the choir rehearsal he was organizing and making sure we had all the song lyrics and everybody had their song lyrics. Bryson, I need, the alto said, we need two more sheets of paper. But what we did not know was Dr. Bryson McGuire was there. So I want him to introduce himself, tell us where he's from, tell us where he lives, because I know he's going to give a shout out to his home state, and then give us his social media, because as my listeners often do, they're finding you on social media while I'm still interviewing you. So tell us where you are on social media and give us your website as well.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Morris. I'm so happy to be here. And again, I just love you so much, and it's so good to be here. Again, my name is Dr. Bryson McGuire. You can find me on social media at Dr. BT McGuire. That's on Instagram and also Twitter. You can visit my social media websites there, and also my business website, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later, is drbtmcguire.com. I do hail from the great city of Danville, Kentucky. That's about 30 minutes outside of Lexington, Kentucky. I always give a shout out to my hometown, and I know that we are going to get into that, but I truly believe in paying it forward, and so I stand on their shoulders, and certainly I'm thankful for their direction. It truly does take a village to raise a child. So I am from Danville, Kentucky. I currently reside in the city of Nashville, Tennessee, and so I'm happy to be here. And again, thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about the upbringing. Let's go back to Danville. Let's talk about the upbringing of Dr. Bryson McGuire. So what does that look like? What does your life look like? You know, brothers and sisters, two-parent home, church, the public library, community, T-ball. What does that look like?
So again, I'm from a small town, Danville, Kentucky. I am the wonderful product of two loving parents. Actually, my parents are high school sweethearts. They've been together for 30 plus years. I have a younger brother. We're 8 years apart. And while we're there, I actually had the opportunity to teach my younger brother. I was his social studies teacher for 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I gotta know about that.
It was a wonderful thing. And again, I know what you had verbalized that we met at the University of Louisville, but when I began my teaching career in 2016, I actually went back to my alma mater at Danville High School and taught there for 2 years. And at the time, my brother was a sophomore, so I taught him both his sophomore and junior year. So
it was okay, wait a minute, you got to stop and tell me, how did that work?
It was wonderful. My principal didn't mind. Of course, she knew our family, and she knew that I would always perform ethically and morally. He was a shining star in my class, and it's not because his last name was McGuire, it's just because it's who he is. So I really didn't have to get on him much. I do remember one time I had to write him up, and my mother called me. And she called at school dismissed at 3:30. She called me at 4:00 and she said, I didn't know about this write-up with Brennan. I said, well, are you calling Bryson or are you calling Mr. McGuire? And she said, I'm calling Mr. McGuire. So Mr. McGuire is off duty. You can check back at normal business hours at 8:30 a.m.
I love it.
She said, and so that was something I always took pride in, Julia. my grandparents, my grandmother, she graduated in 1964 from Bate High School, which was an all-black high school in Danville, Kentucky. My grandfather graduated 2 years before her, and my grandmother was the last graduating class of Bate High School. And so one year I had the opportunity to be their keynote speaker for their Bate High School reunion, and the theme was Pay It Forward. And they asked me to be keynote speaker because I just now started my teaching career at Danville High School. And, you know, in that speech, you talk about community and Danville. I would be remiss if I did not pay it forward. You know, we stand on the shoulders of so many. It was the least that I could do to serve my community and teach at that high school for 2 years. And it was two of the best years of my life. And so I'm really, really grateful that I have a desire to be able to, again, pay it forward to those people that did so much to me and give back to the community that raised me.
That is incredible because, you know, I stand on the shoulders of my grandfather was a tobacco sharecropper, could never read or write his own name, always X everything, but he was probably one of the wisest persons that I know. And that is incredible. That is amazing that you do that. Okay. So how did you think about teaching? Okay, so we go from teaching our own brother.
Yeah.
That is like amazing. So what attracted you to the teaching profession period?
I tell everyone that it was God. I tell everyone that when I went to the University of Louisville, I went in as a biology major because I wanted to be a dentist. And I remember sitting in my freshman biology class and I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. So then I switched my major to political science. I've always loved the law. I've always loved government. So I made my mind that I was going to law school. And I remember my sophomore year after changing my major to political science, and I just remembered I was not happy. And I always knew that I had a love for education, but I was always so concerned about the financial aspect of being a classroom teacher, because we don't pay our teachers squat, you know, and that's an issue. You know, as a teacher, we teach the world's doctors, engineers, we teach the world's president. I don't know who taught this one, but, you know, we tend to teach the world's president, you know, all that good stuff. But teaching is probably one of the lowest respected professions, and we do so much. And so I was concerned about that financial aspect. But I remember I was in my mother's room, in my parents' room, excuse me, and I was talking to them, maybe thinking about switching my major. And I told my mother about the financial aspect. And she looked at me and she said, well, has not the Lord provided thus far? And I said, yes, ma'am, he's provided this far. And she said, well, trust God. And I made up my mind to switch to keep my major as political science, but to pursue a master's in teaching after that, after I graduated from the University of Louisville. And I got my initial certification from the state of Kentucky in 2016, and I've been in education since.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just I'm interested in education. Okay, they're gonna pay me okay, maybe, but I'm trusting God. So let's go there because
Yeah.
you are clearly a man of faith. I tell
Yes.
you what, you have taken me all the way back to Sunday service at my home church. I have to tell you, I am like, okay, if you need worship, you need to go to Bryson McGuire's page.
Yeah, go to my page.
Not Dr. McGuire. You need to go to
Go to Bryson.
the worshiper McGuire page.
Yeah.
You'll be blessed over there.
Yeah.
So, what causes you to be so? We, the scripture. We are not ashamed of the gospel. So, what
Yeah.
causes you to be totally unashamed?
It's that old saying. And of course, I grew up in a sanctified home. Holiness and giving God praise is all that I know. I'm grateful for that. So we were never ashamed, to give God his due, whether that be in service, outside service. But I can always hear the saints of old. They'll say, I know too much about him.
That's it. You can't make me doubt him.
Can't make me doubt it.
You can't make me doubt him. I know too much about it. Okay, we got to stop that because both of us go slap cold in because in this season right through here, honey, God is all we got, and God is all we need. And they used to tell us that, that old sayings. You think, man, she just old baby. I done got old child. I done found
the truth. It is the truth. Like I think about some of the songs we say, I can depend on God, and I truly believe that, that it is those times that I spent, I remember tithing as a college student, as a high schooler, didn't have much, but I tithed what I had. And I truly believe that I'm still reaping the benefits of those tithes when I gave nothing. And now I have much more to give and I can give
Yes,
personally.
yes, yes.
I truly believe that that's what keeps me grounded, that I have a record. And I know that God has been true thus far. And if I know that he's been true thus far, I can keep on pushing because I know he'll take me all the way. So I continue to keep that rooted and ingrained in my brain to where I can keep on pushing. And as the saints would say, in these last and evil days.
Come on, sir. In these last and new days, well, we better take a break right here. I'm Dr. Julia Royston with Dr. Bryson McGuire. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more. And we're back with Live Your Best Life with my special guest, Dr. Bryson McGuire. Oh, we almost done had church over here. So invite your friends, invite your family members if they're not tuning in to Envision Dash Radio, Live Your Best Life. Be sure and encourage them to do so. So I want to switch gears just a little bit because we all know you're a teacher, and but I really kind of want to talk about what you see in the educational, because that whole educational system has literally been turned upside down between COVID, between NTI, non-traditional instruction, to just, most of the parents say we just gonna have school online. Oh my god,
Yes.
you gotta be looking at this computer. So, but what, from your vantage point, and we'll talk about your business later, because I know educational consulting is something that you're going to be doing in your business. But tell us a little bit about what you see, because you're young. And,
Yes.
I have to confess, and, we talked about a little bit before we started recording, is, the male teachers usually rise outside of the classroom rather quickly than females, and that's probably a conversation for another time. But what does the future of education really look like in the future, no matter what, whether you're male or female, black, white, it doesn't matter. It's been turned upside down for all of us. Even business community partners such as myself now, thank God I'm retired, but still a community partner who creates products and services for the educational industry and seeks to work with them. So, in your vantage point, where do you see the future of education?
Thanks, Dr. Royston. So this is actually my first year outside the classroom. So I served as a classroom teacher for 5 years, and this is my first year in school administration and school leadership. So I currently serve as a dean of students in a Metro Nashville Public School here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think that for me, during this time of virtual education, and as we have heard, Sister Rona is certainly running rampant.
Is she doing something? Ain't she?
Yeah, she's doing something, and what
She's
I love,
vernacular, but ain't she?
and she's done a lot, and I think that she's done one thing very strategically. She has shined the light on several educational inequities that have always been there, but now are forced to come to the light in the midst of a national and international pandemic. When we first started and first heard about her coming in the month of March, I can remember that we were in panic. We were trying to figure out how we were going to finish the school year out, because a lot of children who identify as low socioeconomic status or economically disadvantaged, some may not have access to internet. Some may not have a laptop for virtual instruction. Some don't know where they're going to get their next meal for breakfast or lunch. And so we got to make sure we take care of those physical needs, such as shelter, water, food, before we take care of those academic needs. So a lot has been shifting and changing now that we're in the month of October. It seems like 1 month seems to be 1 year. But as we keep continuing on within education, I really feel that the world has now seen several inequities that need to be addressed. Specifically, when we're looking at educational inequities with economically disadvantaged, and also Black and Brown students who typically are at the bottom of low socioeconomics, that some of them are, and who already are at a disadvantage as it pertains to the achievement gap. So it's a lot going on here. What I have noticed is that there are several school districts who are really, really being innovative to ensure that they meet the needs of not only Black and Brown or other minority students, but those who identify as economically disadvantaged, such as my district here. They provided hotspots and laptops to any student who needs it. Now our district is fully one-to-one that can support all of our students. And we're sitting at a district that serves about 83,000 students. So it's really, really big district here. But to see the response, and you mentioned women and men in education, but to see the response from our Board of Education and our board, who is all women, and also our superintendent, who is a Black female, and their response to see how we really, really can take care of these disadvantages that are plaguing not only the city of Nashville, but our country holistically. So I'm really, really grateful for the response of my school district and Dr. Battle, who is our director of schools and superintendent here in Metro Nashville Public Schools. But it's really, really shedding a lot. The pandemic is really, really shedding a lot on the inequities that we see amongst diverse and subgroups of people.
We've been yelling it for the longest,
Yeah,
I'm since I'm not in the district anymore, I won't name the administrator, but I'm like, it was pitched to this administrator once from a corporation that was willing to supply one-to-one, but I wasn't privy to be in that meeting. And I'm like, of course you wanted to be one-to-one. Of course
yeah,
right now, right then we were probably 11 devices to every one child. Well, that's horrible. So
okay.
talk about sharing. Oh my gosh, learning to share. So it was, moving carts from place to place and Chromebooks and iPads, and now it is forced it. I think that's probably one of the biggest things I don't like is that we've been I've this is my third year retirement. I've been jumping on up and down and almost
Yeah,
standing on my head, and I can't physically do that, but jumping up and down, almost standing on my head and yelling that for like the last 12 years I taught. And then now it takes a global pandemic to
yes.
force you to do it. So okay. So hats off to Sister Rona. She
Yeah.
did that thing. She,
She's doing a lot. A lot of people are kind of upset. And we have begun to phase in Nashville. So our pre-K through fourth graders, they officially all phased in on last week. But middle school, to which I teach, was supposed to phase in tomorrow, and our board had an emergency meeting on, I believe, Thursday, as I was actually taping down, putting out stickers in the hallways about only one way, 6 feet apart. We get the update that they have put a pause on putting in our middle school students. And so it's real out here for a lot of people. But I've seen several parents who are struggling to make sure that, number one, that they're able to work, because again, we talk about single parent homes, and again, I understand the ideas of privilege. While I'm a Black male and I can be oppressed there, I have privilege that I came from a 2-parent household,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
However, some are not privy to that. So
no,
we see a single working mother home who is working by herself and having to support 3 children, who has told me that she's had to quit her job to make sure that her children are taken care of and able to receive an adequate and equitable education at home. So it hits, it's very tricky. So while we see there are several pros, there are also several cons that continue to have this domino effect that continues to put specifically Black and Brown people at a disadvantage.
exactly. Of
I
course,
get it.
the socioeconomic. Now, the school that I taught at was Title I, but that was
Yes.
when you get 94%, excuse me, when you get 94% free reduced, that's everybody. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It wasn't a color thing, it was a money thing, it was a
Yeah.
socioeconomic thing.
Yes.
So there, I mean, yeah, the Black and Brown children were still in what we call the gap when it came
Yes.
to the achievement gap. But when you get every kid gets free lunch and free breakfast, and you don't charge for field
Yeah.
trips, that's not a race thing. That's a money thing.
A
That's
money issue.
a money, definitely a money issue, because I've seen as many children of mainstream Caucasian race with poverty and holes and that same dirty ketchup stain all week long.
Yes.
I have my brown and black children, so
Yeah.
it's a really touchy situation. And my heart goes out for a parent who's already working and now has got to stay home. I mean, that those are the really hard calls
Yes.
that we really have to make. So that's a really hard thing. So I want to ask you, so tell us from your perspective, because I never had a brother. I have had a lot of guy friends in my neighborhood. There weren't many girls in the neighborhood. Most of them was boys in the neighborhood. So being a black professional man in a predominantly female um, career and industry. And you're right. You said you were 5 years in the classroom. That's the national average. That the man, black or white, only stays in the classroom 5 years, and then they're promoted out. Now, they do have to have the qualifications to be promoted out. It's not just like, oh, Bryson's a man, he's been in 5 years, get him out of the classroom. No, you have to do the work. You have to have the degrees. You have to have the
Yes.
qualifications. You have to meet the standards. You have to have the instructional know-how
Yes.
and to be able to supervise somebody else. So it's not like, they just said, oh, he's a man, he's got to be out of the classroom in 5 years. No, because there's some men who's been in the classroom 20 years and they don't want to be administrators and they don't want anything past the master's, although a master's is required. Those of you who don't know, in the educational field in the state of Kentucky, you have to have your master's in 5 years. And other states, it's probably close to the same. So tell me what that looks like and kind of what that feels like, or you don't acknowledge it at all. You just do your thing and go on and do your thing.
No, you have to acknowledge it because it's in your face every day, And so my district has several Black leaders. Again, as I first stated, our superintendent director of schools is a Black female. My immediate supervisor, my principal, my executive principal is a Black male. And so I have a wide variety of mentors, but I typically draw to those that I can specifically identify with as it pertains to both race, ethnicity, and gender. And so what I have noticed when I first started teaching, and I first started teaching in a rural community, and at that time, I was the only Black core content teacher in the district, not the school, the district. And then on top of that, I was the only AP certified Black individual, period.
Oh, wow.
And so, and then to put more top on that, I was the only Black male, period. And so it gets a little sticky, right? When you have an African-American educated male who is teaching social studies, specifically American history and government. Because typically coming from a place that's only been taught by white men for history. There's an African proverb that says that the hunter will always win until the lion has a chance to tell his story.
Oh, come on through.
All of these people are only getting this one side or this one story or this one narrative of history. I have never in my life received so many phone calls from white parents speaking of, well, why are you teaching about diversity? Why are you teaching about slavery so hard? And so it was hard to navigate in a rural area. And I thought it was just the area. So then I moved to Nashville teaching 8th grade American United States history. And I got the same type of response from same parents. And this is an urbanized city and much bigger than the small town that I was reared in. So then I realized it had nothing to do with Bryson as, Mr. McGuire or Dr. McGuire. Now, it had to deal with, this is a Black man teaching my white children American history from a perspective of which we've never heard from. And so it was very, very hard to try to navigate that. And I'm always supportive of my principal, Dr. Jones, when I moved here, and now my principal now, they've always been supportive of my instruction when I was in the classroom. But it was very, very hard to navigate as a Black male professional. Even in this district, as as the Lord began to elevate me within the district, it was very, very hard for some people, particularly white women, to receive me. And it was really, really hard because, again, coming from a district where several of the leadership is Black, it's changing a narrative to which we have not seen, specifically in the South, to where you have several people of color who are now holding positions such as executive principal, dean of students, executive director, superintendent, director of schools. And so it's really, really hard to navigate, not only being a man, because then we have to talk about these ideas of intersectionality, how our identities begin to shape how we are perceived. So not only am I a man, I'm a Black man who also has achieved high achievement in education.
Yeah.
So my mother would teach us when we were younger, baby, you got to do right because you already got 2 strikes against you.
Yeah.
And so my 2 strikes at the time was that I'm a Black male. And so that was already hard to navigate. But now I've turned into a Black educated male. Wow. And so I've been trying to figure out how to navigate those turns. And even today, I had to lead a diversity, equity, and inclusion session for some teachers in our district. And it's even hard to receive some of those when you're when you have to have conversations about privilege and oppression. And again, it's coming from the perspective of the Black man. So trying to navigate that has been my life's work, trying to continue to navigate how I fit in that scenery. But I'm grateful for the position that I've been afforded. And I certainly thank the Lord for how he has rooted me and grounded me to be able to tackle these tasks. But to say that it is a hard task to do is probably an understatement. But but I'm trying to navigate it well.
Well, I'm going to tell you, pray and seek God every day. And believe you me, he'll give you the inside track as to who's coming for you. And all of a sudden, they'll be coming for you from the right and you'll move left. And they'll be like, well, what happened? Where'd he go? God will give you dreams and visions and all types of escapes to be able to navigate it. But you can do it. You can do it, Bryson. We're going to stop right there. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back. I'm Dr. Julia Royston. So you got to make sure that you follow Dr. Bryson McGuire. That's McGuire on Facebook, Instagram. Find him on social media. And we're going to talk now about his website because I want you to reach out to him. I want him to tell us about his business. He has started a business. If that's not enough, worship leader, teacher, administrator, educator, PhD, master's, bachelor's, singer. Oh my gosh. I am so proud. And, I've known you a few years now, but I am so proud.
Thank you so much.
A Black woman, I'm always proud of the next generation who seeks to make a difference. Really, even before we go to the business, I want you to mention, because I did see you on social media recently voting and how important that voting is.
Yes. So I have always been a proprietor of voting in the democratic process. When I was younger, I just posted, I can remember going to the polls with my grandparents and my parents. There was one particular occurrence that I was thinking of when I was getting ready to vote. And I can remember my grandfather, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my great-aunt and myself were in one car. And I was about 10 years old and they took me to the polls and I watched each of them vote. My great-grandmother was born in the early 1900s. And my great aunt was also born in the mid 1900s as well, around 19, I want to say 1920 something. And I had her. I had her, and she died at 95. But I always saw them vote. And they always stress the importance of voting. Again, they're coming from a time of segregation where they literally had to march, bleed, fight, cry to have the right to vote. And I would be remiss again if I didn't pay that forward. Again, I truly believe that as a man of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, that a voteless people is a hopeless people. Um, and so if you want, and I also believe if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain.
No,
Um,
you don't. No, you
so,
don't. No, you
so
don't. And I
to make
always
sure
say, if you didn't vote, you still voted.
you
You
still vote. Yes,
still
yes,
voted. You still
you
voted.
voted. If you did not like that, if you didn't vote, you still voted.
You still
And
voted.
keep that in mind. And a lot of people say, my vote doesn't matter. It does matter, And so we really, really have to be careful to be participants in the democratic process because we don't want to be found hopeless.
No, definitely not hopeless. So get out there and vote. Um,
Yes.
and please do so with everything. Take people, get them in the car, load them up in the car, like the Dr. McGuire's family. Load them up. Get people who don't
Yes.
have a ride, don't want to stand on the bus. Put them in your car, put them in your van, and let's
No,
get to the polls and vote.
you talk about going to the polls. I'm thinking about my great aunt. She was a saved woman. She didn't even watch TV. So when
Oh
she had
wow.
she was sanctified. My grandmother's name is Sharon. When she would be down to my grandmother's house, she called her Shellen. And so she was like, turn that TV off, Shellen, because she wouldn't watch it. But so she had to read news articles and a newspaper to find out, to inform herself, on the candidates there. So again, we want to be informative to make sure that we're doing our best and due diligence to know who we're voting for and know
Yeah.
who represent us.
Right.
Because it is imperative, specifically in this season, that we use that
My
right to vote.
Lord, yes. Get your exercise, your right to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about, before we go and run out of time, I really want to talk about your business. So, what made you decide and to start a business? And then, so what is your business and how can people connect with you?
So I defended my doctoral research in the month of September. And once I did that, I realized, Julia, I had so much free time on my hands. I was like, oh my God, what on earth am I going to do? I can remember the 2 days after the then I was sitting here just twiddling my thumbs watching TV. I said, well, this is new, because I've never been able just to sit down. And I've always been a workaholic. I really think I get that from my father. And so I was going to write a book, and I probably still will. But
Yes, you need to.
yes, I have a huge passion to tear down inequities.
Okay.
And I've been a teacher's trainer for about 3 or 4 years now. Again, I lead facilitations for our district. I think now I have trained teachers. They are now teaching in the states of Georgia, St. Louis, Illinois. And this past summer, I taught teachers who are now teaching students in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So, I keep that in mind, in Louisiana and New Orleans. And so I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity. And I wanted to do it for a living. I said, well, I do it, I enjoy it. Why not do it and get paid for it?
Okay.
I was just like, why not do that? And so more so, not only is it another source of income, but it's truly what I love to do. So I started a brand, Dr. BT McGuire, and that is the name of my education consulting. And it's taken off. I go by the mission. The Dr. BT McGuire promotes high quality educational consulting to proficiently develop learning organizations in an effort to achieve transformative, equitable, impactful, and lasting change. We specifically desire to deliver outstanding results in 5 educational areas: diversity and equity, school discipline, school culture, social emotional learning, and learning environments. And so right now I'm up to about 3 clients, and I just launched 2 weeks ago.
Oh my
So I'm
gosh. I love it. I
excited about
love it.
that. I'm excited about that. And I always tell people, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day
You
in your
won't,
life.
you won't, you won't.
And I love it. So having the opportunity to train schools, to train teachers, again, as I've already been doing, but to do that now and to brand and to have my own business at 27, I'm really, really grateful for that
Oh my
opportunity.
gosh. So the website where people can connect with you is Dr. BT
Yes,
McGuire. So that's
yes, yes,
all together.
yes,
DRBT McGuire, McGuire. Oh my
You
goodness.
also have access to my social media links there too on the website.
Please,
So
please.
again, if you are in need of consulting, and again, you may be having phenomenal results, just let me come in and polish them up.
Come on, let's
Yeah.
pop.
I can polish them up.
Sandpaper.
On this
And
sandpaper.
yeah, all it down, all it down. That's right. That's what we need to do. So that's you know, and I really encourage, especially while we're still in the virtual space, to really connect with Dr. McGuire, because this is a great opportunity. And I know people are, I'm so sick of being on Zoom. I'm so sick of Google Meets. I'm so sick of boo. We're gonna be here for a minute. We're gonna be here in this space for a minute. So, you know, don't worry about it. But one of the beauties of being in the virtual, digital, and online space is that you have an opportunity to connect with some phenomenal people, and you don't have to, you know, you don't necessarily have to fly them in. Now they come with a fee, but you don't necessarily have to do hotel and fly him there and coordinate around his schedule. We do have to coordinate around his schedule, but I mean, actually having to be outside the building, because it can be evening and all that, and all he has to do is sit down and turn around and log in. So,
Yes.
you know, I'm one of your biggest fans, and
Thank you, Dr.
I'm
Royston.
super excited. 3 clients in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So
I'm grateful for it, and it's just a blessing. I tell all the young people, specifically at church, and again, they used to tell us these things when we were younger, but they would always say, "Keep your hand in God's hand."
that's what they
they would.
said.
They would always tell us that, and
That's what they told us. That's right.
yes, and when I have children, I tell them that, there is nothing impossible with God. And the sky is truly the limit when you put your hand in his hand. I'm just grateful for he has me. And I keep looking around the corner trying to figure out what he's going to do next. But
I know it. Oh, but he got a plan. You can best believe
yes,
it.
I believe that.
Occupied till he comes. So we're gonna worship him and praise him till he come to get us, and we're gonna be preparing ourselves for the next. Dr. McGuire, it has been a pleasure. It has been an honor to have you on Live Your Best Life. And one last thing before I turn you loose. So give me 2 nuggets for to encourage the people on how, because this is a difficult time for a lot of people, and how they can live their best life. 2 things.
I didn't hear that last part. I'm sorry. I think you cut out on me, Dr. Royce.
Okay, so 2 things.
Mhm.
Tell the people, give them 2 nuggets or 2 mantras, as you say, that you live by to help you live your best life.
Okay. So lately, I have purchased a dog, and he is my pride and joy. And so I had him. He's actually right up here under my feet. He will not leave my side. And so I oftentimes write down a lot of nuggets that I learned from my dog.
Oh
Okay.
my.
When he was about 2 months old, I have a back patio, and the back patio leads into a grass area to the yard. And when he was so young, he would be so scared to jump off. And he would always want me to pick him up and put him in the grass so he can get off. But one particular day, it was a sunny day, and he was scratching at the pavement like he wanted to jump. He couldn't figure out if he wanted to jump. But then he jumped. And he learned that while he kind of fell on one leg and popped right back up and started running, Bishop taught me, his name is Bishop, to never be afraid to jump. I think about myself, when I was in college, and I was thinking of switching out majors. And then I was so scared to enter to the field of education. And then look what the Lord has done just a few years later. And that would have never happened had I not had the desire to jump. And so Bishop taught me how to jump. And also simultaneously, when Bishop falls or he gets into mischief, and sometimes he'll get a little hurt, what he'll do is he'll get back up and shake it right off. So not only do we have to learn how to not be afraid to jump, in the event that we do jump and face calamity or derision or unforeseen circumstances, the best thing that we can do is learn from the jump and to shake it off. So I'm so grateful for Bishop and how he continues to show those wonderful nuggets. So those are two things that I live by. Never be afraid to jump. And if you do jump and you fall, you can shake it off and get back up and keep on
Let's
trucking.
get back up again, because this Sister Rona and 2020 and whatever's to come, we're gonna have to learn that leap and and then shake it off. Thank you
That's
so
it.
much, sir. Be sure to follow Dr. Bryson McGuire on social media and visit his website, especially those school districts and
Yeah.
those schools that may be struggling a little. You need a fresh perspective, a fresh young perspective on education. And I know teachers, we get set in our ways. We just routinely, this is the way I do it. But
Yeah.
sometimes you need to take it, come out of the box and come out of your comfort zone. I know that's almost a curse word, your comfort zone, and
Yeah.
learn from someone else. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Julia Royston, the host of Live Your Best Life. I am trusting and praying with God and with everything that was in me that you today, tomorrow, and always live your best life. Have a great day.